and you will not believe this, I was working 80 to 100 hour weeks non-stop every single week, and I was paid. Hi everyone, I'm Rafa, and welcome back to my channel. Entrepreneurship is often seen as a way to make money, like big money. But do you know how much an entrepreneur actually makes? Today, I'm going to share with you how much I've been paid as an entrepreneur over the years. Let's do it! So I founded a venture capital-backed tech startup here in London, in the United Kingdom. So I know that my example won't be representative for everybody. Take from this what you may. The first thing I ought to say though is if you're looking to pull in a high income from day one, startup life is not for you. If you're also looking to buy a property soonish, then you may also want to reconsider because sometimes startup founders have a hard time getting a mortgage. The reason startups work is because essentially in the early days when it's being built, it's run by a super smart, super passionate, super hungry founder who's paid next to nothing to make it happen. And VCs want you to keep drinking the startup Kool-Aid because that way, A, you won't be too comfortable, and B, you'll want to keep working on growing the value of the company so that they can get their exit and their returns. But conflict. You started your startup to pursue a dream and to build a better life for yourself, right? No one ever told you had to suffer that much. So how much did I actually make? Watch on to find out. When I left my consulting job to start my company, I was 24, and back then I didn't have a salary. Because we'd won a few hackathons and had some grants, we would try and pay some of our expenses through that. So I kind of scraped by. I would burn through savings, but not so much of it that it left me penniless. I was paid a salary properly once I'd raised a round. So this is about 3-4 months after I left my full-time job. And you will not believe this. I was working 80 to 100 hour weeks non-stop every single week, and I was paid £35,000. This is the same salary that I was paid back in my consulting job. So overall, there was no gain, but there was also no loss. Because of various reasons, my startup was hard to get off the ground, and it took nearly 2.5 years since I left my old company before we could raise a more substantial round of £2.5 million. And after I raised this round of funding, I was able to up my salary to 45k. And after 4 years and raising in total over £3.5 million, I was able to up my salary to 65k. And then finally, after about 5 years in total, my salary eventually ballooned to 80k. So is it a lot of money? Well, it's not. But did I do too badly? Also not. At some points in time, there was definitely an opportunity cost I was feeling versus if I had stayed the course in consulting and worked in a corporate. Having said that, the amount of people you meet, the network that you grow, types of opportunities you're given is just entirely different. So it's not fair just to measure your own success and progression in purely monetary and financial terms. Also, as the founder of a tech company in particular, there's all types of nice perks that you can benefit from. A company retreat, we've been to various places in Europe and had lots of fun with the team, to being able to expense items like your iPhone and your laptop with the company. One of the questions I had when I was making this video was, how did I do then in comparison to other founders? And how much should I be paying myself anyway in the first place? There are some objective benchmarks out there, and I'll kind of put them somewhere here on the video, but there's really no one-size-fits-all answer to this question. The first thing you should do is actually begin by asking yourself, how much do you need? And to do this, you have to be quite honest and transparent with your finances, with your co-founders around finances, and sometimes even investors with your finances about what your actual costs of living look like. After all, they don't want you to go completely destitute and have to live in the streets, right? No one can be productive like that. But at the same time, of course, they also don't want you to be greedy and excessive with your pay. So to find that balancing point, what I found to be really useful is to separate out your two roles, one as the manager of the company, and the second as an employee of the company, and to look at them as completely separate things. There's also ways to increase your net effective income by looking for expensible line items, things like phone bills or devices, iPhones, as I mentioned, and to also be tax efficient with your money. So in the UK here, there's a thing called the Cycle to Work scheme, for example. And to answer the question of how did I do then compared to some other peers of mine, I'd like to borrow examples from two of my friends who are also founders. One of my friends literally paid herself and her co-founder next to nothing. They were trying to tax optimize for everything, and they didn't want any of the money to end up with HMRC and the tax man. So they literally paid themselves nothing and tried to put all of their life onto expenses. This presented her with a huge problem when she was trying to buy a flat, because there was no viable mortgage that she could actually apply for. So that's an approach that I genuinely don't advocate for, paying yourself nothing or a very, very substandard wage, because in reality, it's just not a sustainable arrangement, and it's also unfair to you as an employee of the company. As a second example, a friend of mine, he was paying himself 100K a year, and granted, he did have children, which adds to your monthly costs. But his company only had 6 months of runway left, and they're a small team. Which means that his salary was actually burning through a huge chunk of the company's money. Which leads to the question of, is that the right remuneration he should be getting if they were trying to optimize for longevity? Like I say, there's no right or wrong answer, and everyone will have a different level that they're comfortable with. And the best approach is to be honest with your finances and transparent with your investors. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you feel you're underpaid as a founder, what should you do? The first thing is to figure out how much is fair, and you can use all the methods I mentioned above, from benchmarking to working out your life expenses, your needs. And the second thing you should do is to go back to your shareholders agreement and find out who is in charge of setting your remuneration. Most typically, it's one of your lead investors in the last round, who might also be one of your board directors. Call them up and make it a conversation, and explain to them why is it that you're seeking this salary raise, what is wrong with the current wage, and give them a solid reason for why you deserve to be paid more. It is a scary conversation, there's no two ways about it, but you'll feel so much better for having done that. And actually, from my experience, having seen and worked with so many founders, the usual result is that they won't say no. At the end of the day, everyone's incentivized to make sure that you, as a founder, is living a healthy, happy, and fulfilled life, which will make you a much more productive individual and therefore contributing to the company. Finally, salary is important, and do everything to make sure that you're fairly remunerated. However, it should never be the only measure of success. A founder's success is also measured by many other things, such as your sense of achievement, whether you fulfilled your own purpose and your mission, whether you're happy doing what you're doing. If you're looking for a more tangible financial way to measure success, it's actually quite useful to focus on your net worth. So that's taking the value of the company and looking at your ownership of it instead. I hope these tips were helpful to you guys and you guys enjoyed this video. If you like my content and want to hear more about my founder life and how startups work, then make sure you subscribe to the channel below, and I'll see you next time. Have a fantastic day.